everyone, and welcome to Discovered Horizons. I'm your host, Veronica Dudo. From teaching students to teaching the world. On this week's episode, I chat with Elena Davis, who turned her passion for her Italian heritage into a thriving business while helping others discover Italy along the way.
2 Italian desserts and their meaning. 1. Gelato. Gela means cold or frozen. Gelato, gelato. 2. Tiramisu, tiramisu. Tira, pick, me, su, up. Pick me up.
I'm so happy you were able to join us.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
So I came across your account and I love the recipes and just really the sheer joy that you have for sharing all things Italian. Of course, that's part of your heritage. I saw that you were born in Sardinia. So can you start from the beginning and tell us how you started on this amazing journey to share with so many people this passion?
Yes, absolutely. So going back to how we came to America, I moved here with my parents in first grade. And all of my family still, except for my parents, are still in Sardinia. So in the summers, I grew up the entire summer, about 3-ish months, would go when I was growing up, would go to Sardinia and spend the whole summer there with my grandparents, my cousins. We have a beach home, cook, and, big Italian family style life. And I have friends there. And so it's not your typical immigrant story where, you might come here and kind of forget your past. We are very, very tied to my Italian family. And here and there, we keep in touch throughout the year. And it's very much been a part of me my entire life. So I, by trade, got my education in teaching. So I taught for 13 years in inner city schools. So I have a master's in reading and did that for 13 years. When the pandemic hit and we were doing online school and my kids are doing online school, and
oh, everyone remembers.
it was kind of a black hole, kind of a mess, but it was the first year where we couldn't go back to Italy. And even when I started having children, we still spend our whole summers there. My family comes to visit during the year. And I just felt a giant hole. Like there was a part of me that wasn't going to get reset or fulfilled from, getting that nurturing piece that I often do when I go home. So I was really down. It was really hard, and my kids had a hard time, even though they're young. They're used to speaking the language and going over there. And wherever we are, we always cook and bring people together through food. And that was another thing that the pandemic kind of took away. So we couldn't do that as much anymore with friends and family. It was more just immediate family. But as I was cooking and doing all of our things that we normally do, I thought, I think it will be a great time to start a food blog. So I started on my journey there, and just one day at a time, it's evolved, oh my gosh, so much in the past 2 years. But it started with just publishing our family recipes and kind of writing as if people that were reading were my own family and friends coming to eat with us in our home, which is very much what I want in my brand and hope to achieve now. Is that's why Cucina means kitchen by Elena. So just kind of everything that happens in my kitchen, I want to share it with everyone. So not to talk too long about it because I could go on, but that is just kind of the premise for where I'm from and how the blog evolved and came about. And as I started writing these recipes and sharing, immediately getting a lot of feedback from other people, immigrants, American Italians, and also Italians. Just the joy of reading stories and recipes, and people like yourself who I know have Italian background that automatically feel like this reconnection, or maybe this connection they didn't know they had, because it really is where you are from, and your heritage really just does live inside you and is part of who you are, I think.
And it's such an interesting situation when you look back in history. And of course, we do learn. And for at least my family in the early like 1920s, they wanted to be so Americanized and to fit in. And unfortunately, stopping speaking the language was what they had done. And a lot of times when you look back, they really didn't know any better. And so that is such a misfortune. So exactly, I think for myself and a lot of other people, they love their own journey to explore back with their heritage. And we're seeing so many sites like ancestry.com and other ones where you can connect the dots and you can be in contact with another person and start another relationship. But with your videos and a lot of the stories that you post, it's so authentic. It's so sincere. Like you really can see your happiness for sharing your culture coming through. So I'm sure that when you get this feedback of so many people sharing their stories, I mean, I'm sure that's time consuming to read through everything, but it has to make you
I
feel,
love it.
yeah, so good.
And you're absolutely right. So the big, slew of immigrants that came during that time, their hopes and dreams were to make a better life for their family, to live the American dream. And often they didn't have a lot of money.
Mhm.
And they knew that speaking English, that going to American schools, that assimilating as much as possible was really going to achieve those dreams that they hoped for themselves, but mostly also for why they came, for their future generations, to build a better life, or so that they thought, right? And so it was kind of a survival method. It was like,
Absolutely.
this is what we need to do, without even probably thinking at the time,
Mhm.
I'm creating like a new legacy here, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of not forgetting, because so many traditions are still passed on, even in Italian American culture, but Italian American culture and Italian culture are actually very different and considered
Yes.
different. They're two very different things. But both are loved and, and well received. So that was common, like in your family. It was probably not even thinking about it, but just a survival. Let's, let's get this going and move forward in the way that we knew how. Let's set up restaurants. Let's do what we can. Again, I think so much of these immigrants, like you find in Little Italy, in New York and Boston, they express their way through food. That's what they knew how to do. And so they set up shop and started making money that way. That's what they knew how to do.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more on the island. I've been there. It's beautiful. I've only kind of been in the northern part of it. So what are your favorite things? Obviously, it's such a nature preserve and people flock there, of course, during the summer. I totally feel you during pandemic. I was like, this is, the first summer I'm not in Europe, and then the second summer, and I think exactly there is that pent up frustration to of course travel again. The Mediterranean is an amazing hot spot in the summer months. So when you go, kind of talk a little bit about the life more as a local, since of course you guys are visiting, but you're not really a tourist. So for people who want to maybe plan to go there, if that's on their bucket list, can you talk a little bit about the island?
Yes. So I have so much of this on my Instagram account, but I love to share and talk about it. So when I go home to Sardinia, like you said, I'm not so much of a tourist there. It's just another life there, right? You are walking to the grocery store every day. Specialty products. Oh my gosh. If you know, you know. The Sardinian cookies, including my very, very favorite Savoiardi. This is what we make with tiramisu, the big Sardinian kind. All the Sardinian cheeses and other regional cheeses and cured meats, prosciutto, mortadella. You're making your meals, and a lot of time we spent there is in our beach home. So I'm from Cagliari, which is the capital, and that's in southern part of Sardinia. So we tend to stay kind of down in that area. but we do travel often to different places like Carloforte, which is a cute little tiny island that you take a ferry to, and that's known for its tuna and seafood life. And there's so much to do, but really the daily life is what I miss the most. It's the traditions, it's the home, it's the language, it's the schedule, it's the, eating a little bit later in the evening and eating lunch around 1 or 1:30 and spending time to think about food and prepare it together and share meals together. And granted, it is summertime, so life is a little more relaxed than normal in during the work and school time when it's full force.
Courses of Italian dining. Antipasto, appetizer. Primo, first course. Secondo, second course. Contorno, sides. Dolce, dessert.
I just love the fresh ingredients. The farm stand, Sardinia has so much fresh produce. And because it's an island, there is a lot of farm to table type eating. Mm-hmm. You'll find these restaurants called agriturismo, and they really are like little farms that have a restaurant attached to it. And so if they have, livestock or produce or whatever, they'll use that all in the restaurant. So you'll find a lot of things like that. And we love going to restaurants that are that kind of type. And then of course there's the beaches. It's like just to kind of imagine Caribbean type waters, but it's the Mediterranean, and that there's just so much beauty and relaxation that the sea can bring, and we love that, to connect with that every summer. And then a lot of people don't know, but Sardinia has some of the best climbing in the world. So there's a lot of climbing and hiking and really large mountains so you kind of have the land and the sea type of life there.
And I think also it's noteworthy too. It's not uncommon to see a lot of young children even up late at night, and just exactly what you said, really enjoying the atmosphere. And I think the hours, that's something too for people who are potentially looking to go there, just to understand it's really a celebration of life. It is laid back. There is all of that nature, as you mentioned. I would love to try to go more to the south and some of the other places there. But your recipes, are they mostly from your family, passed down? I know that you offer like some, tips on how to make them. Can you talk a little bit about where do you, curate some of your recipes? Just what's shared in your family, or what sparks those ideas?
So there's kind of two different sides of the blog. There's a lot of traditional recipes, which are typically from my family, and they might be things that might take a little bit longer to make, like a Saturday project: homemade pasta, homemade ravioli, lasagna from scratch, all of these kinds of things. These are recipes that are near and dear to my heart, that are made with wholesome, fresh ingredients. Italian cuisine and cooking by nature is so much more simple, pure, and made with fresh ingredients, more than people might think if they're used to like a Olive Garden type Italian eating. And so lots of feedback from my recipes. I can't believe how fresh and tasty this is, and how light it is. A lot of people consider, Italian like so much cheese and garlic and these things. Well, in Italy, that's not how we really cook. So just really going back to authentic Italian cooking. Mm-hmm. And then there's a lot of recipes that are made for just putting dinner on the table every night, right? And it's still with an Italian background, how my mom cooked growing up. My parents are geneticists, and that's what brought them here. It was some research projects in the 90s. We were supposed to stay for 2 years, And it's been a very long 2 years. So that's what brought them here. But my point in saying that is my mom was very busy, and so is my dad work-wise.
Mhm.
And so she didn't stay home making pasta all day, waiting, for dinner time. And that's not so common in Italy anymore anyways, besides the very small rural towns with, the older generations that still do this. And so what are people in Italy really cooking on a Wednesday night, in the middle of the school year? What kind of meals are you doing? Well, you can do a creamy broccoli pasta. You can do shrimp and orzo. You can do, there's so many different things that are still Italian, healthy, wholesome, and still can get dinner on the table, as a working parent, as a mother, as a father, anyone, even young college students looking to, kind of explore cooking in a new way that doesn't have to be super difficult. And with the homemade pasta and things like that, people might consider a little bit more difficult, I always make sure to have and this is the educator in me, very clear instructions, lots of how-to photos and tips. So really anybody can achieve it. And if you are local to the Utah area, I do in-person classes as well to kind of get familiar with more like ravioli. People are like, this is so great, but I just want, you just want a hands-on, and I'm a very hands-on person. And so with some of the more technical recipes, it's fun to have a class. And so I do those as well. But you'll find everything from focaccia bread to ciabatta bread to quick and easy dinners that are still good for you with an Italian flair. So there's just a little bit of everything, I feel like. There's even a few recipes from my husband's side of the family, who he is American, and I never knew what pie was. In Italy, we don't have pie. We have crostata and things like that. But so I have a section with these Davis family recipes, which people rave about as well, that are a little more on the American side.
So I'm sure that had to be interesting for you to get acclimated a little bit here with some of the differences. And of course, though, you share for people really anywhere around the world who are looking to go to Italy some tips and tricks to make navigation a little better. Do you have top 3 or top 5 to share?
Recipes or
Just traveling to Italy.
traveling to Italy. So yes, I've done a few things on just kind of restaurant culture in Italy is very different than in America.
If you're dining out in Italy and ordering an insalata or a salad, don't ask for dressing on the side. It usually comes on the side, and it's usually olive oil, vinegar, salt and pepper. That's it.
And so I've given some tips on Italy specifically, when does dinner start, and how are the courses, how does it go, how to order. So that would be one thing to look at. Another thing that a lot of people found very interesting is kind of the walking culture in Italy. So it's called passeggiata, but you'll often find young and old people into their 90s and such walking around at 11 o'clock at night in the piazza, and it's just normal. And you want to make sure that if you're there, even if you're kind of an early to bed kind of person, you make some time to see the nightlife of whatever city you're in, because there's so much beauty in watching these young generations and old generations and people holding gelato and walking around. It really is a way for you to immerse yourself when you're traveling in the culture. So those are just a couple that I would recommend to look for.
Great. Well, we so appreciate your time. And for people who want to get more, can you tell us some of the places where we can find you?
Yes, so cucinabyelena.com is my website. You can subscribe there and get all the new recipes every week. You can pop in and out whenever you like to get recipes. And Instagram, again, is Cucina by Elena. Pinterest, Facebook, it's all Cucina by Elena, just the same. So if you search me online, you can surely find all the social channels you're looking for. Please reach out, send me an email, send me a DM. I love to connect with people. It's my pleasure to help you in your cooking journey or whatever you might be feeling with with it, connecting to Italy. I'd love to be that vehicle.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we will check those out, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.